Hey, Julia Barzik here from Wise Investigator. We are going to continue on with the Countdown to Career video training series. We are 5 months away from the deadline now. These videos are intended to be as concise and really as short as possible so that you can get the information you need efficiently. And for that reason, I am not going to repeat information that I've covered in the previous videos. So if you have not watched those, there's 11, 9, and 7 months out to the deadline. Those are ones that come in the series before this one. So please go back and watch those. I will refer to specific information from those videos. So even if you have watched them, you may want to go back to those videos or those parts of the videos and review that here, because again, we're going to be revisiting a little bit of this now that we're further along. So I'm going to cover these 4 points and get right into it. First one is, now is the time to review and probably request resources that would be available to you at your institution to support you in preparing the career proposal. So please go back to the 9 months video where I outline all the different types of support that could be available to you. Now would be the time to get your name in. There may be a queue, there may be a limited number of people or PIs that the support staff can support. So this would be the time to let them know you're interested in that support and see if they can help you. Moving on to number 2, we are going to talk about drafting your project summary. That's what this video is on, and then I'll touch on getting feedback on the summary. And then based on this feedback, you're going to want to contact the program officer if it seems like it's a good idea, again, based on that feedback and your own assessment, for you to consider submitting. So that information is covered in the 11 months out video, how you can get to the right person at NSF, so you can go there for that. All right, let's get started on the project summary. So I advocate for drafting your project summary first. And this is because you really need to make sure that you have a comprehensive plan for doing the work that you want to do and also putting together the full proposal. So you can think of this as a sort of outline, and it is very advantageous to go ahead and do this part now, especially because you're going to be able to get more and better feedback when you have a shorter document that you can show to people and request feedback on, rather than very close to the deadline asking someone to look at something that's 15 pages plus all the other ancillary documents that go along with it. So that's a big advantage, but I really also shouldn't neglect the primary advantage, which is to get this all straight in your own head. If you are not able to articulate in a few pages what you want to do for this 5 years of funding, then it's unlikely that you're going to be able to do that in a longer document. And this is where we want to save you time from, one, preparing a document that you're really not ready to submit. Those are hours that, you don't want to say it's totally wasted, because you may get something out of that exercise, but it would not be the best use of time. Also, you don't want to get too far into writing the project narrative and then find that you really need to go a different direction, or you need to rewrite parts of it. And at that point, you're reworking and rewriting and revising something much longer than something that's just a couple pages. It's easier to start from scratch with something that's just a few pages, or do some heavy editing or revisions, again, on something that's just a few pages than on something that's more than 10 pages. So now I have an asterisk here on project summary because, okay, this isn't going to be your final project summary. There are character limits for each of these 3 sections: the overview, intellectual merit, and broader impacts, on your final project summary, which you will paste into a web form through NSF. So this is something that we will worry about much later, getting your project summary down to the correct length, meaning character count. We can just do a project summary right now that's 2 to 3 pages. Now that's longer than what comes out to be about a 1-page project summary in the end, but this is not the time to worry about that. How are we going to go about drafting this? Well, we are going to start with the notes that you created based on the 7 months out video. So what I did is actually I'm using the same Google Doc, which I will link to below this video as well. And on the next page, I put the notes that you want to start from for drafting your project summary. So you'll be able to scroll up in the document that you've copied and have your notes in there, and then just copy and paste my content into that for you, and then you can go down to that next page and start completing the project summary. So let's see what that looks like. So again, I'm not going to review stuff from the other videos, but I will just scroll through this here. This is what's on the 7 months out video. We had notes where you wanted to think about the intellectual merit, the broader impacts. We talked about specifically where you could be impacting, the impacts, right? Impacting the broader impacts, and thinking about that integration of research and education. So now that you've thought about that and hopefully written some things down, you actually want to start writing this out. So again, I have the asterisk here because we don't need to worry about the length or making this too long. If it's 2 to 3 pages, that would be appropriate. So let's go through the different sections. Now, please do not feel that this is too basic, right? This is very, very simple how I've given you some prompts for writing the first draft of your project summary. But I promise you that this simple approach is actually very powerful. So don't shy away from the babyish or the maybe very simple nature of these sentences. This is what's going to get you writing. Now, when you actually have drafted something out, you can remove, I don't think you should remove where it says the objective of the proposed research. I think that actually should keep as it is and then write what the objective is. But the others, you'll be able to revise this wording, maybe take it out, state this in your own words. Honestly, even leaving it in is not really a bad idea because even if it sounds a little awkward, it is actually very clear, which is the most important thing. So let's start with this here. Now, you want to make sure that you state what the objective of your proposed research is. So go ahead and write that down. It could be a multi-part objective. If so, then make that clear what the overarching objective is and then what parts of the objective, how that might be broken down. But this is very, very important. And you want to make sure that you are clear on what this is when you start out, because throughout the longer document, you're going to be referring to your goals, your aims, your objectives. That's all the same thing. So you want to make sure that anytime you use those words, aims, goals, whatever you're stating is consistent with this main objective. And from there, you can go into writing a little bit about why what you want to do matters to your field. So a very easy way to start talking about that is to say, the reason why this proposed research would matter to my field is, and write something down. And then you can write about why this matters to society. And this would be a little bit broader than what you put in the broader impacts, but this is an overview. It's serving as a little bit of an introduction, so you can state why this work would matter to society. Now we'll move on to intellectual merit. You want to make a statement here, something like, the reason why this work has not been done yet is, and tell us why. Because if it's such a great idea, we have to wonder why no one has done it yet. Now, there probably is a good reason why no one's done it yet. It could be because it's just been too technically challenging to collect the data that's needed. Maybe you've never had this sensitivity on these types of measurements before. It could be because you're bringing, no one's thought of applying a certain theory, maybe from another discipline or outside of conventional thinking. No one's thought of applying that theoretical framework to the problem you're looking to solve. But you're able to do that because you're coming in with a new perspective and a different approach. There could be other even administrative type reasons why something has not been done. Maybe it is somewhat interdisciplinary or falling between programs and it's not been a priority for funders or even the community more broadly to look at this, but now there's a reason why it should be a priority. So then this next prompt, it relates strongly to the one above it, and that is to explain why it's now possible to do the work. So what is it about the new method, the new instrumentation, the new computational capabilities, the new theoretical framework, the bringing together of multidisciplinary approaches, although CAREER is a single PI award, so that one may not be as likely as it would be if you said you were partnering up with one other PI and you two were going to collaborate on something and each bring your own perspective 50-50. But that's just to give you like an example of why something could be possible now that wasn't possible before. Now, here's a good place, even especially for this 2 to 3 page draft. When you have your final project summary, you may not go into as much detail here because, like we said, that's going to be a bit shorter. But this is an important part to put for the people who are going to evaluate and give you comments on this draft, for them to understand what you're actually proposing to do. So now change this wording if this is not correct, but 75% of the proposed research out there will probably apply some kind of combined approach or a multi-part approach, right? So you can say, to get you started, the proposed research employs a 3-part approach or a 4-part approach or maybe a 5-part approach, or if it starts to get more than that, you might want to actually break that down somewhat. But so then state what those different parts of the approach are. First we're going to collect the data, then we're going to do the modeling, then we're going to look at how the data and the models are, what they're telling us together. We're going to evaluate the data, or the models with the data, or we're going to go out and then we're going to do the field study, or how you're going to integrate those different parts. So usually it's going to be something like, the one approach, like, collecting some type of data, doing some type of physical experiment. Then there's going to be something else that you're doing, like some kind of modeling or theoretical development. And then there's going to be some integration. Of course, there could be other components too, right? So I'm just painting in broad strokes here. But this would be a good place to spell out what the approach is going to be. And you could also consider pasting in your Gantt chart, which I suggested you create up here in the last video, because this is something that's going to help your reviewers or the people who you ask to comment on this. It's going to help them understand what you want to do. A Gantt chart is not going to be included in your final project summary, but it is worth including here, perhaps. So then you can write a bit about what the broader impacts are. Now, these are not parts, again, of the official project summary, but this is going to be helpful for your, I'm going to call them your evaluators, your mentors, and the colleagues that give you feedback. Just write a little bit, a few sentences about what the broader impacts are. You can go back up to your notes. How would this work affect these areas? And then you can also write a bit about how your research is integrated with education. That's something you should have been thinking about. And you write that down because you also want to get feedback on that from the people who give you comments on this document. They could, this is a place too, really, where if this is something that you're not as well versed in, you very well could get some helpful feedback on this, especially if you're asking people at your own institution to comment. They may see an opportunity for you to even augment or grow what you want to do here. So you want to put something there so that you can get comments and feedback on that. Now, this is something that's also important for you to start to learn to articulate. This is not going to be, again, directly part of your final project summary, but it's good to get feedback on it. And really, it's good for you to start learning how to make this kind of argument. Why are you the best PI to do this work? So you're not saying you're the best PI in the world or the best PI that ever existed, but you are saying that you are the best PI to do this specific project. And this is probably because of your experience. You're going to be proposing to do work that's related to expertise that you've gotten in previous work that you've done. So you want to call that out and say, you know, I am the leader in this methodology. You know, I have collected these types of data before, even though they're difficult to collect. I have demonstrated that I've been successful in doing it. And you may bring in some other kind of perspective from some training or work you've done it even more in the, you know, the distant past. It's not too distant, your early career, but that might be something that's not obvious to the reader. And they might not be, they're going to look at your bio sketch, but they may not be digging in there and they may not be connecting the dots. So this is important for you to communicate. And even though, again, this isn't part of your final project summary, we want to put it here in this document. So go ahead and fill this out so that you end up with a 2 to 3 page document. All right, so what you are going to do with that is you're going to get feedback on this project summary. So you can ask mentors, previous winners of career. You should ask in your grants office or research development staff if they can look at this and give you feedback directly. There could be staff there that would do that. They also, so they could do that or they could forward it on or refer you to perhaps a previous career winner or someone who served as a mentor to other career winners that you may not have in your network. You should also get a sampling if you're going to ask in total 4 to 5 people to give you feedback on this. And this is reasonable because it's only 2 to 3 pages. So, you know, asking 4 to 5 people to give you feedback on a document that's at least 15 pages, plus the other pieces that come with it, that's a lot. But this is something that they should be able to read pretty quickly and really give you their first impressions, even verbally. Or you could ask them to record a Loom or something. Like, this is a very easy way of giving feedback is a screen recording, right? Get something up on the screen, just get their comments, really just even their first impressions. This is super valuable and it doesn't have to take them a lot of time. So let them know that you're very grateful for any type of feedback, even, again, a quick recording, an audio recording, a screen recording, a couple bullets or sentences in an email, however they want to give the feedback works, and you'll appreciate that. So back to this bullet, you want to ask the people within your discipline and outside your discipline. So that is probably for pretty obvious reasons, but you definitely want people who are from a little further afield and aren't aware of the big challenges, the big questions, to see what they think of how well you've conveyed those big challenges and big questions and how you're going to address them. And people from your own discipline, of course, because they are going to have a great perspective on that, and they may be able to dig in a little bit deeper to your approach and identify any potential problems or suggested improvements or clarifications, perhaps, that you might want to make in your approach. So what you want to ask them for is really, whatever feedback they're willing to give you, but to give them a little bit of guidance, you can ask them what they think about the scope, and specifically if they feel the scope is too broad. It's not uncommon for feedback on career to be that the reviewers feel that it's a lifetime of work. This person is proposing something that really would take a lifetime to accomplish, and that's not good. That's often something that's going to be declined, and you're going to have to rescope it and rework it and resubmit. The other end of the spectrum here with the problem you could encounter is reviewers saying that your work is not really going to be that significant, or that it would be, incremental. So in this case, you're not doing enough. And this is very important feedback to get at this stage, because either one of these, you can recover from either one of these most likely. You could scope something down in a revision, or you could either scope something up, push yourself a little bit farther, a little harder to do something a little bit more risky, or it could very well be that what you want to do would be a significant contribution and it would not be incremental, but there's an issue with communicating that. So you may need to change your communication about what you want to do so that they understand that indeed this is significant. It's not incremental. And because this is an important part of the evaluation criteria for career, ask them if what you have provided on your planned research and integration or research and education integration looks strong, or if they have any suggestions for improving that. So based on the feedback that you get from this, you will want to decide either to hold off and perhaps wait until next year to consider submitting for career, or if you feel like you want to move forward, like you're pretty sure you do want to submit, but you're still thinking about it, this would be the time that you want to reach out to the program officer. So again, go back to the video at 11 months out. You can find there how to contact your program officer. You probably, most of you probably already know how to do that, but just in case, it's provided there. And you will send them the document that you've revised based on the feedback you've gotten and ask them for a meeting. Now, they may not be able to have a meeting with you, in which case they could give you feedback over email in terms of you are asking if they feel that what you proposed in this few-page document would be a good fit for their program. And if they are willing to do that with you on an audio call or a video call, that would be wonderful. But if they're going to just give you the feedback over email, then that's okay too. Now, if you don't hear from them, then you can write again in 1 or 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks later. You can reply to the email that you sent, and just politely ask them once again if you could meet with them, or if they could provide you this feedback. And so at this stage, then, based on the feedback that you get from them, you should be in a pretty strong position to know if you are going to proceed with an application for career this year, or if maybe holding off would be a better idea.